Adamski, one of the most famous but at the same time mystical personalities in the field of ufology. On the one hand, we know him as a man which contacted with aliens from Venus in the 50s of the 20th century, and as the author of books about this phenomena. But on the other hand, his biography is covered in a veil of secrecy. We know little about him. One way or another, in our hands there are photographs of a UFO that he was able to fix, as well as a small footage video shot on 16mm film. First contact. On November 20, in 1952, Adamski was with friend at a picnic in the Mojave Desert in California. Suddenly, they noticed a cigar-shaped object in the sky, pursued by fighters. Another silver and disc-shaped separated from it and sank to the ground at a distance of 0.5 kilometers from witnesses. Disc-shaped object was readily symmetric, has the form of a flat dome, on top of which was a large hemisphere with a number of dots, portholes. With a number of dots on it, below were three much smaller hemispheres, located symmetrically relative to the center of the dome cross-section by a plane perpendicular to the axis of symmetry of the entire object. There is a snapshot of this object taken by Adamski. Adamski drove towards the drive and he was stopped by a human figure. He described the creature as a beautiful dark-skinned humanoid, with blonde hair reaching his shoulders, with slanting gray-green eyes. There was no vegetation on his face. He was dressed in a shiny, like foil, suit without seams. Adamski's friends who watched through binoculars later confirmed in writing that he was actively gesturing with the creature. Adamski claimed that, in addition to gestures, the creature communicated with him telepathically. The creature reported that it came from Venus in peace. It expressed concern for its planet with radiation coming from the Earth as a result of nuclear weapons tests and harming other planets. The creature reported that inhabitants of the planets of the solar system and even other galaxies regularly visit Earth. Some of them died on Earth, some even at the hands of people. There was also an unclear conversation about the Creator. The humanoid said that he lives in accordance with his will. The creature allowed Adamski to photograph the UFO, but didn't consent to be shooted. Adamski claimed that after the humanoid there were footprints in the sand. Together with friends, he made a plaster cast of these traces. On the tracks were supposedly hieroglyphs which they tried to decipher. Preposterous as his stories seemed, Adamski became an international celebrity and lectured widely. Queen Juliana of the Netherlands raised a public stir after inviting him to her palace in 1959 to discuss extraterrestrial doings. Adamski supposedly claimed a secret 1963 meeting with the Pope as well. Adamski soon had followers all over the planet. But not everybody was on board. Arthur C. Clarke, the author of 2001, A Space Odyssey, not only denounced Adamski's work but characterized his believers as nitwits. Subsequently, Adamski claimed that he had repeatedly seen the creature he had met in November 1952. He claimed that he flew beyond the Earth along with similar creatures. On the far side of the Moon, as Adamski argued, you could see obviously man-made structures, forests, mountains, ponds, even some kind of four-legged animal covered with wool. Adamski also claimed to have participated in the Interplanetary conference on Saturn. A photograph cited by Adamski captured mainly disc-shaped and round objects. MGM Studios Special Effects Laboratory study of the Adamski pictures showed that alpha models could be built and posed, and lighting effects could be simulated. There was one thing that they could not duplicate accurately: distance effect. They could not screen a model to obtain a sufficiently realistic distance grain effect, bell-shaped UFOs. John Ford, the famous Hollywood director, was given some of the Adamski enlargements and stated in his opinion the sources were large objects, shot through a telephoto lens of about 6 inches focal length. These findings were confirmed by Joseph Mansell, chief of the JetX model aircraft, whose job it was to make photographs from models' aircraft attempting to make them real. He stated that in his opinion Adamski's photos were not models, but large objects about 30 feet or so in diameter. Adamski described these crafts to be 33 feet in diameter, and later optical analysis of the Adamski photos against others by Leonard Graham proved their accurate dimension and size. Cecil B. DeMille's top trick photographer Pev Marley declared that if Adamski's pictures were fakes, they were the best he had ever seen. In England, 14 experts from the J. Arthur Grant Company concluded that the objects photographed by Adamski were either real or a full-scale model. GAF. Later examination of the Adamski property was made no possible means of producing or suspending a full-scale model could be ascertained, and of course, as already proven, the grain effect from the telescopic photography cannot be faked either. In 1955, the famous TV astronomer Patrick Moore, whom Adamski successfully debated several years later, told Leslie that he too had seen a set photos of a scout ship superior to those of Adamski and Derbyshire, and orthographically identical to those taken in England by Ellingham in Scotland in 1954. Another famous American astronomer who wished anonymity had allegedly took these photos through a telescope. Journalists who spoke with Adamski claimed that he spoke with obvious sincerity. The objects mentioned by Adamski were also reported by the other people who were not acquainted with him. Many of the items from which it was supposed to be made mock-ups photographed on film were invented after the publication of this photograph. As suggested by Jenny Randalls and Peter Howe, the creators of these items deliberately stylized them under the UFO described by Adamski. Adamski describes the process of the light reflection in space by dust particles that cannot be foreseen when observed from the Earth. The phenomena observed around us resembled billions and billions of flying fireflies flashing everywhere. Randalls and Howe compare American impressions astronaut. The many small lights that are considered stars turned out to be yellow-green in size and brightness. They resembled flying fireflies in a very dark night. In 1958, world-renowned archaeologist Professor Marcel Houmet, in his book *The Son of the Sun*, published findings into ancient civilizations in Brazil and along the eastern slopes of the Andes. Included were a series of petroglyphs discovered in the area known as the Pedra Pintada and believed to exceed 10,000 years of age. One series of these petroglyphs resembled by nearly 80% those engraved upon a photograph plate and given to Adamski in 1952 by his space contact a full 6 years earlier. Professor Houmet said, "Although I shall be destroying a great deal of the current theories about the world of antiquity, I have never found Adamski to be untruthful. I read Adamski's book before the publication of my own book and was surprised to find the same symbols. But in another order only the oval is completely identical to Adamski's." Professor Houmet went to add that flying saucers were not his field of interest or expertise. And what do you think about this person? Do you believe him? or not. That's all for today. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments.